Hi, and welcome to Thank Good It's Friday live stream event brought to you by Conno Wines. I'm Carolyn Enting, editor of Good Magazine, and today's topic is women in business and investing. And I'm here today with two Kristins who also both happen to be from Canada. Kristin Newman from Hatch Invest, welcome.
Thank you.
Kristin Wunsch, who is a strategic business coach with an amazing background we'll talk about later. Hi, Kristin.
Hi.
And our own digital editor from Good Magazine, Hemavara.
Hi.
So the idea behind these Thank Good It's Friday events is to support local businesses and also come together for a Friday afternoon drink. Today we're drinking a beautiful Conno Pinot Rosé. And why Pinot? Why Rosé? Because we just want to sort of like hold on to some of that little bit longer. As we've done with the other live stream events, we've got some fantastic giveaways. And so today you can actually win with Good and Conno. If you go to Good's website, good.net.nz competitions, you can see the icon there for Conno Wines. Conno's doing this fantastic initiative to support local businesses, cafes and restaurants. And so if you use the code on connowines.co.nz website and you use the code together, they will donate 5% to local cafes and restaurants that serve their wine and also take 5% off your bill. So that's really awesome. But not only that, we have five $50 restaurant vouchers to give away today to 5 lucky people. So if you sign up to Good Magazine's EDM and also newsletter for Conno Wines, and all that information is on our website. You can go there to find out, and you can go on the draw to win that. We also have 4 well-being and well-being and wondering what happened. Sorry, what is it again, Emma?
Well-being and self-love gift boxes.
Thank you. Sorry, just lost my word there for a moment. To give away as well, and you'll be seeing a tile popping up about that, and you can enter at good.net.nz competitions for that as well. And then just quickly while we're on competitions, I just want to congratulate our winners from last week, who each won a $100 Au Natural voucher. And the winners were Lizzie Minish, Sarah Neal, Claudia Toxipes, sorry if I got that wrong, and Sarah White. So congratulations. So Kristins, it's wonderful to have you here. Never had to say that before.
We planned this.
And just while we're in the
great to be here.
And just we're in the waiting room, we just discovered both of you are from Canada.
Isn't that amazing? The world is small, isn't it? And here we are.
So I guess it'd be good to just introduce each other, yourself, and just say a little bit about what you're about. So I'm Kristin from Hatch. If I get this right, Hatch is a little bit like Sharesies, except you deal with US shares. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, cool. So I started in the fintech space when it was just getting up and running. And so that's the concept of taking this kind of broken financial system, like all the messy stuff about banking or investing, insurance, just everything that's kind of hard, moving money and making it easy and using technology to do that. So got together with a really fantastic group of people and approached Kiwi Wealth, which is owned by the Kiwi Group family, sister company to Kiwi Bank, and just felt that there was a better way to do wealth and a more interactive, engaging way to do wealth. And so got with, fantastic group of tech entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and we're really just looking to what would be the most kind of engaging to up your wealth right away. And we felt it was to access kind of the world's most recognizable companies, brands that we love, products that we use every day. So we gave Kiwis access to the US share markets reliably and affordably, and welcomed tens of thousands of people on the platform since we've been live just over a year ago. So we've started with the US share markets, like you said, but have got lots in store to move to kind of New Zealand funds and some other stuff as well. So that's kind of been our very short early journey to date, and yeah, it's been great, lots of fun.
Oh, that's very fascinating, and I'll come back to you with more questions about that. And Kristen, up until recently, you were running a business collective called The Workshop, and you're a strategic business coach specialising with coaching women. So I'd love to hear more about what you're up to right now.
Yeah, so I am from Canada, and I moved here 5 years ago, and I've been running the Workshop, which is a co-working space, for the last 3 years, and the whole time I've spent a lot of time working with businesses, and what my real gift is the business strategy stuff, the mindset and the business strategy, and really helping people grow. Like, growth and transformation, whether it's business or personal, is such a massive value of mine. And so recently I've stepped fully into that. So I've just been doing the strategic coaching work with primarily women. That's who I get really excited to work with. It's beautiful to see how women approach business. I think there's this real shift in the last few years, where there used to be this very masculine way of needing to build a business, and the logic and the logical side of it, and the very male dominated way of generating revenue and about profitability and all of that. That's really important, but I think there's a real shift now to really valuing the more feminine ways of building business, the relationships, the building empathy, the really valuing customers and your customer journey and how you make people feel along the way, and valuing profits too. And so I think there's that's what I get really excited by, and so that's what I've been doing, more so recently, and also just taking a bit of time to reflect and take a bit of a step back with everything that's happened recently, because I think it's a really good chance to do that. So that's what I've been up to.
That's amazing. I mean, obviously, it's an understatement to say that COVID-19 has caused, it's major disruption for business right now. Each of you, sort of, what advice could you give that small business owners, or even any business owners right now at this time?
I probably come from slightly different. The financial services was considered, what's the word? The essential services. And so it doesn't seem like it, but people still need to be moving money. And so Hatch went through a really weird kind of crunch time, where we were probably working ridiculous hours, because when the markets do weird things, which it did with COVID, everyone wants to get into the markets. So I think we saw all-time signups and investments, and we had a very small team going into COVID. It was unexpected, obviously, what was going to happen and the impacts of that. And the growth out of it, I think, was really stretching. So for us, we were very much challenged in a different way. We actually hired 8 people during the past 2 months. And so firstly, we had to find the people, interview them, allay any fears that we were well-funded, that we were a great brand to work with, because that's a pretty scary time joining a new company. And then onboarding and getting people engaged with what you're doing and training them. Online was also been very strange. So for us, it was very much managing, being able to go from this office environment to not missing a beat on productivity. Like, we were working huge hours. Things have slowed a little bit, but I mean, the fact we just couldn't miss a beat with productivity, and still dealing with kids and family, and also anxieties with this. I think the whole, what's going on, and health, and so that was our challenge, was managing burnout, getting new people on, and just keeping everyone's spirits high. Very different than what I think most people have dealt with. So very different.
Actually, that's quite interesting, because my partner and his brother-in-law, they were both really into their shares. They were buying a lot of shares at this time. And then because his brother-in-law wasn't working because he couldn't do his business, he's an event producer, so he became just obsessed with watching the share market, and I made money today,
and that's good and bad.
So I mean, when's the best time to invest? When shares are plunging, and you hope that company won't go down the googler, and you can just grab it again. Or when's the best time to invest?
Well, the best time to invest is yesterday. Obviously, if you haven't started, now is the time. And to and if you're in KiwiSaver, that's fantastic. You're invested. Make sure you're in the right one for you. But I think best time to invest is the sooner the better, because the longer the time you can sit in the markets, the more your money grows. So I think that's really important. Now, the opportune times is absolutely when quality businesses are on sale. So the share markets are basically just where companies go and say, you can buy a slice of my company, and in exchange, I'm going to give you, and in exchange, I'm going to grow this company. And so that the slice of the company that you own is going to increase in value. So that's really if you buy into a single company like Lululemon, for example, or if you buy into a basket of companies, which is a fund, which really just spreads your investment over lots of different companies. And so their job is to grow and make sure that your piece of the pie grows in value, so that when you look to sell it, it's gone up from when you bought it. And so really when the markets kind of tank like they've done, you get these really great businesses that happen to be on sale. So some of these businesses that are really strong, like the likes of Microsoft or Amazon or Zoom, which we happen to be using, like these are really interesting, strong businesses that aren't hit by the virus. And so their fundamentals, they are really strong, but yet their share prices are low because everyone's, the share markets have done. So just think of it getting a little bit more for your money. But it's also probably not a great thing to obsess over your shares in the share market either, because that's got other dangers. But actually we find for the most part, women tend to be better investors than men for that very reason. So they're much more cool-headed.
Okay, so just put it with investment and then just not think about it for a while and go back and look.
Yeah.
So
I think what a lot of people get put off with shares is they don't know where to start, how to go about it, and it can be quite terrifying. So how does your company, I guess, solve that problem for people?
So we've got, we've got a getting started course, like for 10 days, you get an email every day, and it takes you through everything from what is risk to what's a share, what's an ETF, what are the share markets, to how might I get started. And I think the best thing to do is your research and to feel empowered. And that doesn't need to take years. You could do a course like that, or there's an amazing, fantastic website, which I love, called The Balance. And there's great resources from Ellevest, which is this fantastic female-led wealth business in the States. They have amazing blogs as well. And I think just empower yourself and then just start with what you know. I think that's probably the easiest thing. So if you think of it an investment in education, and you were to take $500 and you put it into the one way of doing it is putting it into a company that you know. So that could be Air New Zealand, or it could be Lululemon, or it could be Apple, or it could be just something that you feel like, or Netflix, for example, like you use it every day. And if you just think about that business, is it going to grow, that business? Do you back the future of that business? Well, if so, just feel comfortable in putting a little bit of money in there, and then just sit and watch it. Sit and watch what Netflix does over a 6-month period and what your $500 does, or less. But just think of it an investment in education, where that's, by watching the share price and what it does, and watching how it would have gone down with this market, and watching what happens when Netflix announced their earnings, which were 2 weeks ago. And that's basically when they share their report card of how the business is doing. That they would have, they had a huge jump in subscriptions, obviously, because everyone's watching Netflix during, so then their share price would have gone up. And I think that's probably the best education, is to learn by doing. So start with something you know and love. That's one way of doing it. Another way is just spreading your money across a fund. So you can also just get someone to do it for you. And basically just get into a managed fund, and someone does that for you. And there's lots of great ones in New Zealand, and alternatively is an exchange traded fund, and that's just, again, a basket of companies. So if you were like in the S&P 500, that's the 500 largest companies in America, and it's the companies that you know very well, probably. And so if you're spreading your money over that, that's something that's fairly diversified. You know that your money is probably going to be well taken care of as these companies go. So I would just start small. Start with either something you know, or a well-known fund, or a managed fund. Just let even if you want someone to do it for you, but just do something today. If that's getting on The Balance, or going on Ellevest, or signing up to our course, or just taking the plunge.
Would it be a good idea to just maybe invest maybe $50 a week or a month, or how much can you invest? Would it be something we just sort of put a little bit of money into the same fund regularly, or is it all at once? I mean, because obviously it's quite a financially very challenging time for a lot of people right now. A lot of financial uncertainty, people losing jobs, and they probably don't have a lot of spare cash some people don't have spare cash to invest, they might not think about it as a good investment?
Don't invest if you can't, and only invest when you can. So investing is for the long term, and if you don't have money for the long term right now, then that's just life. It's just the way it is. Your emergency fund is really important, and that savings is super important. So I'm not a financial advisor, by the way. This is like pretty general advice, but hopefully most people had some sort of emergency fund, or were able to get access to something, be it the government funding. As well, but investing really is for the long term. And there's sometimes seasons in life. I know I took a couple of years off with my kids. There was no way I could invest, and sadly, that's why at the end of women's lives, we end up in retirement with far less. And part of that is the wage gap. We're still not paid as much as our male counterparts. So if you think of that over a lifetime, we've been paid less. We have to take time out of our jobs for kids, or we often end up being the carers. So at the end of the day, we end up with less. And so I think that's something to be corrected. That's like a huge other conversation, I think. But with respect to if you're in a tight spot, look, probably investing is not the right thing, because if you need money out in a hurry, you do not want it to be in share markets, because had you done that before this crisis and you're looking at pulling it out now, that money would be worth less right now. So you should only invest if you can. So if you've got disposable money coming in, pay yourself first before you spend it at the cafes, or, as we're getting back to spending, pay yourself first. So take, 5-10% of your paycheck and put it into investments. And so that could be, like you said, into a single fund. It could be in a couple. It could be in a managed fund, and maybe some companies on the side that you really care about. So whatever suits you, your kind of risk personality, if it really stresses you out and you don't want to see it every day, give it to someone else to sort. But if you want to be engaged with it, there's varying levels of risk. But you start small. Like if you just start with kind of 1 to 5% of your paycheck. And then you kind of build over time. But if you do it the minute you get paid, then you kind of don't miss it, because it doesn't end up being frittered away.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Actually, my dad taught me that when I was really young, and I haven't always been very good at doing it, but he said, put away 10% of your income every time. It's amazing what you can build up there. It's amazing. That's how I bought my first car.
Yeah, amazing.
So we've got a few questions coming through now. I'm going to call you Kristen from Hatch and Kristen Coach, so you know who I'm talking to.
Yeah, great.
I wanted to go back to the question about advice for businesses right now, small businesses, and just a question come through from Nikki asking, what types of ways do you help businesses, especially thinking of new business startups? I guess that's two questions, isn't it? So we'll go with Nikki's question first. What types of ways do you help businesses, especially thinking of new business startups?
I think, especially in a time like this, there's like your mindset is everything. That's the case to a large degree, all of the time, but I think particularly during times of, uncertainty or crisis, like you define, you run your day, you define how you make decisions, and you can either have the belief that the world is happening to me, or you can have the belief that I'm in control of my life and I have the ability to make decisions. And so I think, to be perfectly honest, like I completely understand people, in crisis and, in uncertainty during this time. Like we were chatting about it before we jumped on the call, but I've closed the co-working space over, the last few weeks, and that's been a very emotional, it's been a bit of a roller coaster getting there. But that's the reality of some businesses. You have to make hard decisions, like, stressful, uncertain decisions that are just, sometimes the reality. And there are massive opportunities out of this. This is such an opportunity. I've spent, I've spent the last few weeks looking at like teaching myself about investments and about, more in the finance space, about building wealth, which is a, beautiful opportunity. And I'm so curious about what you do, Kristen, but like I'd love to get into more of that, because this is a massive opportunity to learn, learn new skills, like learn new things. And so whether you're thinking about starting a new venture and, what that looks like, or just opportunities for your business, everyone, the classic thing, like pivot into new things, like it's so cliche to say pivot, but what the reality is that this kind of disruption and shakeup gives everybody the opportunity to make massive, large scale shifts And that gives you the opportunity to shift out of things that were not working for you. So whether that was stuff in your business or stuff personally, here's your chance to clean it all up, like completely change direction, do something that's very much, and that's very much what I've done, something that is so aligned with where you want to be and who you want to be in this time. And there's huge opportunities. So like, and I don't know where I heard it, but 65% of the Fortune 1000 companies were started in a recession or depression. So, these times in the share market, there are opportunities, cheap stocks, but there are also opportunities elsewhere that will come out of this. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So you need to be looking for those opportunities. And I think that's a real positive, instead of focusing on the negative. I try to stay off social media. I stay out of the news, like all of this negative, the media is very much designed to that's why I love what you guys are about at Good, is because you're inherently trying to focus on the positive, the positivity and the positive things in life, which is beautiful. But the most of mainstream media is just, it's driven by, fear, right? Like, and so you're in charge of how you, operate your day and the mind frame that you bring into things. So I think that's super important for business owners and, people in general.
Yeah, it's interesting watching the stats too of things across, just all the different countries and just what's happened just with this COVID thing, because without a doubt it's an incredibly awful thing. But there are so many stats that also show that, so many people die of other things as well. And it's just crazy what's been happening. I've got two more questions here. This is one for you, Kristen, from Hatch. Courtney asks, although a good time to invest, do you have any specific categories that you're expecting to climb?
Oh no, I'm not allowed to do that. That would be that would be a crystal ball. But if we just thought, like, let's just think about this like as, and I think what a lot of people do with investing, it's like, oh, there's all these like really smart people on Wall Street and around the world, and it's not for me. And I think we create this imaginary barrier that I am not an investor. So like, let's just say no one's an investor. But what we want to do is we want to up our wealth and have our money working for us. And it's probably not like our long-term money is probably not best placed in like a savings account. So like that said, just think about this is your hard-earned money and you want the freedom to make choices in the future. And so there's lots of great places where it can grow for you. And there are no kind of experts out there. That's all a bit of a crystal ball. Like if you'd heard, I think the stock markets went down 2 days ago and everyone's like, is this a sign? Is this a sign? And then they were back up last night. So rather than kind of track those day-to-day things, just recognize that over a long period of time, stock markets go up. And that's because companies grow. And it's because we're buying things. It's because we're doing things out there. And companies, businesses that you're all growing or you're frequenting are doing well as a result of kind of this like world moving and things happening. And so if you kind of think there, you're like, well, where is my money going to best grow? Obviously think not all eggs in one basket. Don't put it all in one company or one fund. Like if you've got property, that's great, or want to get on the property ladder, KiwiSaver, fantastic. That's kind of your forced savings plan. Make sure you're, again, in the right one and contributing to that. And in terms of kind of investing on the side, if that's 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road, just think of kind of the industries and companies that you're using, that everyone else is using, and that you can't see stopping anytime soon. Or think about the trends coming out of coronavirus. Like there's some of the industries that are doing really well, not surprisingly, are biotech and healthcare. Why? Because we're like looking for, number one, like PPE. We actually know what PPE means, right? Everyone knows what that means. We didn't know what that meant 3 months ago. So if you think about this massive worldwide increase in ventilators and PPE, there's companies that need to make that. So healthcare, obviously, is an industry that's gone up. And as the aging population, that's an interesting sector. Biotech is, those are all the people that are looking for a vaccine for coronavirus. So those shares have gone crazy, and funds with concentrated in that sector. And technology, like here we are talking via technology. We're still using it every day. We're collaborating, we're learning. And so I think technology is one of those sectors that's also going up. Now, just be careful a little bit, because when things go way up in an event like this, it could mean that they're overvalued. So just be a little bit careful. That's why diversification is super important. And then a long-term view. Like if it's, if you think technology is the future, if it's a little overvalued right now, it might go into a correction, it's called, might kind of go down a little bit, but over the long term, it should go up over time. Hope that answered the question.
What about investing, like businesses that are, doing things the right way in terms of ethics and sustainability? Would that be a good?
Yeah, that's really big. And that's called ESG. ESG is environmental, social, and governance, and it's basically a rating. Now, the problem with ESG is it's a little bit, you just have to be a little bit careful of kind of greenwashing and people that saying it's so good because it's ESG. I think research is really important here. But ESG is kind of a label that just says, look, this company is doing good things, which means that it's going to be sustainable in the long term. So if you think about a fund, now KiwiSavers don't have nuclear, they don't have tobacco, they don't have arms, and I believe gambling, because if you think about those industries, they're not good, and they're not sustainable. Like if you think about tobacco, it kills people, and it's probably not something you want. And the probably worldwide rates of people smoking are going down, which means that you probably don't want that in your investing. Companies that are doing good are companies that are looking at sustainable ways of creating energy, or social good, good governance. Part of that ESG is like, are the boards diverse? Are women well represented in senior leadership positions and at the board? Are they making good decisions? And so there's kind of these filters that you can place on top of companies, and there are investments that are kind of ESG investments or social investing, and studies have shown that actually they've performed well, just not or better than your traditional non-ESG funds. So they're kind of proven now that responsible investing is not only good for the world, but it's actually good for your wallet as well. So that's something to keep an eye on.
That's fantastic. I've got a question from Jason. He's asked, what's the best platform to use when investing, like managed funds?
Managed funds, I think, look, you've got InvestNow is a supermarket of managed funds. And so you can kind of go on there and you've got, I think, 100 to choose from, or a lot. So, or you can just go to a banking provider that you trust. So, Kiwi Wealth has managed funds, ANZ has managed funds. And so if you're banking with someone, you might want to look at their products. I know that we said Sharesies, they've got managed funds on their platform. I think it just depends. What have you got in your KiwiSaver, and how might you kind of diversify? So if you've got maybe like, so I suppose it's just looking at what kind of things do you want to dabble in, and is it companies, is it funds, is it managed funds? But I think, yeah, everyone, there's quite a few platforms, which is amazing in New Zealand now, and it's just kind of finding your home and where you feel comfortable.
Interestingly, I was chatting to an investor recently about Sunset Industries, and he was saying fuel and oil potentially could see as Sunset Industries because the world's having to go more towards, sustainability, electric and things like that. And Kristen Coach, I understand you used to work in a previous life in the crude oil business in Canada, and you made made the companies lots of money for that. Can you tell us a bit about that life and now how you've kind of moved in a different direction? And do you believe that oil is a sunset industry?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a completely different life thinking about, I did used to trade oil. So my company wasn't a producer, but I was buying and selling barrels and moving product by rail. So all across North America. So yeah, that seems like a completely different life, and very much, the lifestyle I was living was killing me really. And so it was a very dramatic shift that, led me to New Zealand and exiting that industry. But I look back on it now, and I guess the whole network I had there, and what's happened to the industry, like negative oil prices the other day. absolutely crazy. So to be honest with you, I don't follow the oil markets anymore. So I don't know. I can't really articulate whether it's, a sunset industry or, I mean, obviously with, renewable energy and, the shift toward people valuing sustainability. I think that that's, a fundamental shift for all of those industries across the board. And I think that's a really positive thing, like the kinder we can be to the earth and the more we can, just use resources that aren't, harmful or, that are more sustainable. I think that's such an important shift for everyone. And that's, what Kristen was talking about before, that investors are demanding, more and more conscious choices. And I think that's super important. So it's like, we want to support and back businesses that are doing good in the world. And, I don't think we fully ironed out, how to identify all of those businesses and how to, measure and track and, who's doing good and what that really looks like. But I think there's definitely a cultural shift around that, which is, really beautiful to see. It's not just about the money. Industries like that it's very much money driven.
I've got another question coming for you from Justine. She says, Kristen, I admire your knowing when to get out of business too. How do you know to say, that's now enough now? So I'm reading it the exact word for word. Do you think people stick in businesses that aren't working for too long based on being too attached?
Totally. Most people do. I think that's true of business and relationships. We all are guilty of staying in relationships well beyond when we know we should have exited. And that's because, we've convinced ourselves of an idea, a value, a belief. I love this person. I love this business. This is right for me. And it is so hard to change our own minds that we trick ourselves into believing that, this is still the thing. And I think to make those choices and, to be honest, I did it. I was forced into that choice because of Corona, but it's been misaligned for me for a while, and it's so hard to face the reality of, whether it's a relationship or a business. What does that exit mean? Making that decision has implications, not just for you, it could be financially, could be emotionally, it could be for the people around you. What are you cutting yourself off from by making that new choice and changing direction? And that's a really hard reality to face. And so I think almost everyone probably sticks around longer than they should. And I guess back to the question around, how do you, I forget exactly what it was, but how do you know when to when to shift ties? Like if it's not lighting you up, I'm going to forget who says it, but if it's not a hell yes, it's a no. And I think actually two really, really good things, I guess frame lenses to look at it through is one of my really dear friends asked me back in actually January when we were catching up after Christmas, what would you, so I was, talking about the business and, all of the things for the year. And he said to me, but what would you create if you could create from a blank slate? If you didn't have to work with what you already had, if you didn't have to make things work, what would you actually create? So like another way of phrasing that is, would you choose this again? If you had the ability to go back, would you choose this again? And I think that's probably a really important question to ask from, that would give you an indication of, what are your intentions here? Are you trying to keep something alive because it's a sunk cost, or is it something that's really, in your heart and really align for you? So that might be helpful.
So I'm imagining when you're working with coaching clients, you're talking about this stuff and sort of on their journey to really, I suppose, align with what they're doing is actually on their purpose. Do you think?
Yeah, totally. I think the best thing about coaching, and I think everybody needs a coach, like it's, the most elite athletes in the world, Olympic athletes, they have coaches because they know that in order to get to the top of their game, like if you want to get to the top of your game in an Olympic sport or in a business, like you need to have somebody that has an outside perspective that's able to show you your blind spots, to reflect to you the places where, you might be lying to yourself or, you might not be seeing it, because when you're in it, and everyone does this, when you're so close to it, you can't necessarily see it objectively. Right. And so that's what, a coach can any kind of strategic advice can give you that sort of that more objective view, a high level view of, maybe the things that you're missing, which is super, super important.
I think for a lot of people, they do want to, say, move away from their 9-to-5 job and start a business or kind of get involved in something new, but they don't necessarily know how to go about it, or they might be a bit scared, or they might think, do I have the resources? Can I actually afford to do this? So what are some practical tips for people to kind of get them moving along?
Yeah. I think that really depends on what type of business you are looking to start. But I would first take a step back and ask yourself, why do you want to start a business? Because it's really, I don't know if I can swear here, but it's really fucking hard. Like it's insanely difficult. Like there's so many ups and downs, and you have to be prepared for that. And it is also one of the most rewarding things you can do. Like you're creating this massive impact in the world. You're in a lot of cases changing people's lives, and that's beautiful and that's so rewarding. And the financial rewards, and hopefully in many cases can be appealing as well, assuming all things work out. But the reality is most businesses fail. Most of them fail because it's hard, and it's not, and there's no roadmap, right? And so when you're thinking about, I'm working in my 9-to-5, I'm working my 9-to-5 and I don't like it. So I want to start a business. Well, maybe you're just in the wrong job. Maybe for a lot of people, for the vast majority of people, the 9-to-5 is actually a really great place to be. If you can find a company like, Good Magazine that you're aligned, like a values driven company, a purpose driven company that you really align with, that can be just as beautiful. You don't have to start a business. And so, not that you shouldn't, but I guess I would, I think it's become recently, especially in the last few years, really sexy to be like, to be an entrepreneur and, really appealing. And it's like, for a lot of people, it just isn't the right choice. It's not for everyone. I know that it's right for me. I look back on the days when I was working in corporate, and like, I don't know why anyone ever hired me. Like I was, I just always needed to do things my own way. I always saw a better way. And, when you're working for yourself, that's, that's innovative. But when you're working, you have to follow, fit into a cookie cutter box. That's not great. So for those people that are wanting to start out, take the first step, and you don't know where you want to go, I think, really understanding yourself and your values, like what is the impact you really want to make in the world? And if you don't know what that is, like, it's really about just first identifying what really lights you up. If you think about your life and how you run your day, what are the things that drain your energy, and what are the things that really give you energy? What gets you excited? What gets you, like I get excited to jump out of bed in the morning these days because the work that, I'm doing in the day is it really lights me up. It gives me energy. So what are those things for you? And then just do little things, you don't have to quit your day job to start a business. Like you can start it slowly. You can take on, for someone that's in a service-based business, you can get one client. Like I think the vast majority of people I see when they try to start a business, and whether you quit your job or not, they get overwhelmed by the idea of I have to build this massive business, and they forget that, I have to build this website, and I have to have all of this stuff. And you don't need a website to get a client. You just don't. And so if you can't get one client, and, for product-based businesses, it might be a little bit different, but even get one person to buy your thing. If you can't get one client, you don't need a website. You need a different product or service, or, something that's better crafted. And so there's a lot of, I think, little things you can do along the way to get started that it's not I'm an entrepreneur or not, or I have a business or I don't. It's like, just test it out, work with somebody, or, do the one thing and make sure that that's actually really what you want to be doing. And that gives you the opportunity to, as you go along, just more of the stuff you like, and more of the stuff that's working, and less of the stuff that's not. I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, that's so true. That concept of, and I think it's so accepted nowadays, is the side hustle. Like I think 40% of our team have a side hustle, and it's just a thing. It's like, oh, I feel so cheated on. They all have side hustles, but it might just be a totally different side. It might be that they contribute to a developer's blog. They've got their own blog, or they've got they're writing on the side. I think that concept of this gig economy, and that we can do lots of different things at the same time while we're kind of finding our feet, or even that's just how we like it. We like to do some little side hustles on the side for a bit of extra money, or kind of a passion project. I totally agree, Kristen. I think that's super accepted nowadays.
Actually, I've got a question and another question from Nikki asking both of you, what are your whys? As in, why are you doing what you're doing now?
For me, it's always, always come back to change what's possible for women globally, like to give, to empower women to have, the mindset and the tools and the like confidence and courage to totally change the world, like to have the impact, and not for everyone, it's not going to be necessarily changing the world on a global scale, but to have the impact they want to make on the world. And that's just so important. I see so many women that, are just stuck being held back and not fulfilling all of their dreams. And I think everyone deserves to have that inherently.
My why? Why did that have to tough question have to have? I need another glass of wine. I think I like being a part of movement, like momentum, which is why I've been drawn to kind of the startup space. And I also have like the sense of justice. There's always been the sense of the world is unfair and how to right it. And so I think with fintech, and this in particular money, I'm just angry at how maybe I treated money or how I was never taught about money. Generally how most people are like, oh, growing money is greedy or it's not for me. And really just, I think the unfairness of the system, I think that we've come into this world and like that, even our KiwiSaver, like even looking, like finding your balance is hard. Like this is our hard worked money. And I just think everything's hard. And so there's the sense of like, how do you turn the whole banking system on its head and all these hidden fees and all these dodgy people and like this Wall Street and closed doors. And so for me, I've always had a strong sense of justice in anything I do. It's like, how can I right wrongs or make things better? Even if I don't do it, it's like, at least I've given it a go. And then I like being part of movement. Like if it's like something's happened differently today, if you've got 40 hours of your life in a given thing, like what's moved forward, what's really moved the needle in your life or someone else's life, or I just kind of don't feel, satisfied. And I like being in kind of the startup space because I like crafting my teams. Like I love crafting the people I work with. And that's like such a pleasure to be part of a small business that you can actually choose the people you work with. I think that's pretty cool. And that's pretty cool. Yeah.
I suppose Hema and I are quite lucky at Good Magazine. I feel very purposeful every day. I kind of feel like what we do is making a difference. We're doing our bit for the environment. We're printed on with vegetable soy ink. We're using sustainably forested paper that's non-toxic, it's not matte, and so it can be composted. We're aligning with really nice companies, and that's one of the reasons why we're really great to be aligning with Kono Wines today, because they're a local Māori-owned company, and their values are all around people, but also place and looking after the environment. And so it's just such a privilege being able to work with companies that align with those values, that are doing good in the world. And Hema, would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely feel very grateful, and I have so many people come up to me and say, you were so lucky. I guess on the other hand, it's been a lot of hard work to get here. I have also come from a corporate background like Kristen, just didn't feel like it was working, and then kind of went freelancing, and that was really scary. I actually was at the workshop with Kristen, so that was amazing to have her support there. And I guess it's led to some amazing things, but it's been a struggle. It's been a time. But I've actually got a question for Kristen L. So this could be a little bit controversial, but would you say that women are a little bit cautious when it comes to investing?
Yeah. If you think about it, where women are, my generation is the second generation to make money, if that. And so probably your generation are probably more the second generation to make money. Yeah. So it's something that we haven't had earning power in the past. And as a result have been kind of locked out of that world of finance. And so it's been very much us and them. And I think, so growing up, lots of little girls are taught to kind of save and manage money. So like household budgets and do the grocery shopping and how do you make a dollar stretch? Whereas the boys traditionally have been taught to take risks. And so I think we've fallen in those traditional roles where the women are like, oh, we need to do good and we can't be greedy and that's seen as greedy. And somewhere along the lines, we learned that don't invest unless you're willing to lose it. And I'm just like, what? Like, that's so crazy. That's like saying, don't put any money in your KiwiSaver, which is invested, by the way, because you're going to lose it. Well, a lot of us are relying on that for retirement, or at least expecting it. That's not to say that companies don't go under and share markets don't fall, but like, that's such a crazy concept that it's like, oh no, it's not for me. And so absolutely, we've got this like ingrained kind of teaching that is passed down a couple generations, where we're told to kind of manage and save money, whereas little boys have been told to go out and take risks. So I think this generation has sorted it out, though. For the most part, I see lots of young women kind of doing fantastic things.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
And I think it's really important to take risks, and it's actually quite important to fail sometimes, because you learn so much. And I've sort of, you've both got insights on that, you know.
Oh, I don't want to fail. I hate failing. I've got like a huge fear of failure. Kristen, what do I do about that? Every day it's like, did I succeed or did I fail today? Like, because we're still getting, Hatch off the ground, and we care so much about it, and it just doesn't feel like every day it's like, when is the time where it's like not failed? Like, when is that? When can we sleep? I'll let Kristen coach help with that.
You never get there. You never get there. Let me know when you do. I think for everyone, I mean, everybody has that fear of failure and that, imposter syndrome, that am I good enough? I genuinely think that women suffer from it more. And this is, something I constantly explore and question and ask about. But I think boys are socialized to take risks. And I mean, biologically, physiologically, risk-taking and sensation-seeking, behavior is more inherently male because of testosterone. It just is. And then you have the social aspect of how we're socialized, where boys are taught to play rough and tumble and girls are taught to be perfect, and so that's not, across the board, and that's a massive generalization, but that is how society, raises boys versus girls. And so I think when we look at failure, the possibility of failure, women tell themselves that it means, if I fail, it means I'm not good enough. And I think men, to a larger extent, they don't tie their personal self-worth to the failure or the, failure or success. And so I notice it a lot. So I surf. I think you were talking about surfing before. I try to surf, but I notice it in the water, and I do it with myself. And it's just so frustrating. So you look at 10 waves, the guys will go for like 8 out of 10 waves. And they might make, say they make half of them, or, say they go for 10 waves and they, they fall on 5 and they make 5. Well, they're making 5 waves. The women, and myself included, I'll only go for 2 waves, because I'll only go for the 2 that I, think I'm definitely going to make. And what it means is I still fall on half of them, but I only catch 1 wave. And so my time on the board is 1 versus their 5. And so they're progressing and they're getting better, because they're just giving it a go. It doesn't matter if you fall. And I think that that's something I'm always conscious of in my life, but being aware of it is, allows you to make different choices, but it's still there, that fear, I think, is there for all of us. So it's just the more awareness you can bring to it, and the more you can catch yourself and take action anyway, right? Like, you might have been, starting Hatch, you might have been, and still come up against, I think the fear is a sign that the fear is a sign that you're really doing something progressive, right? Like, you're really doing something you haven't done before, which is what business is all about. If everything you're doing is something that you've seen and done before, you're not doing anything innovative, right? And so inherently, we're always going to be up against that fear, and it's about having that fear, holding it, and taking action through it anyway, I think.
And I guess, and it must take like a superhuman power to not tie your self-identity with something. That's something I've never been able to do, like, no matter what. And I've done corporate jobs, and I've done photography on the side when I had little babies, and I just think your kind of identity is tied up in your work, and even more so now that you can't ever switch off. But also, if you're like a really passionate person, it's weird to be in a 9-to-5 job and something that you're not passionate about. Like, man, life's short. So it's really, I don't know what that trick is to switch that away from your self-identity. you know, and to be able to switch off, that'd be amazing. I suppose that's enlightenment.
When you're a bit fearful, I think coming up with around business and stuff is, you know, the fact that you actually really care as well. So
Yeah,
something really meaningful to you, I think that's a positive. And I've got a question from Liz come through asking, how do you research and investments in that? What sites do you trust online?
So, okay, I like The Balance. I think I've named that before. I think it is an American company. So I do like The Balance. Let me think if I can think of how do you research an investment? I think you learn about investing first, which you can do anywhere. It doesn't have to be a Kiwi site. So that can be this getting started course that we've got, or something else. And just learn about the mechanics of it and who you are as an investor. And then I think, like I said before, you kind of just have to find your home, like where you feel comfortable, where you can kind of have community. And what's cool about some of these new investing platforms is you kind of fold into a community. Like we've got a Facebook club where you get invited in, and they can just chat about it. And I think, yeah, it's funny, in New Zealand, people don't talk about money a lot. So that makes it really tricky, doesn't it? Because wouldn't it be great if actually, that's what people should do. You should, Liz, just ask people if they invest in and what and why. And I think that would be a fantastic start, and just open up kind of a money conversation. Who do you have your KiwiSaver with and why? And talk about that a little bit. So yeah, I think Google is like your best friend with investing. And there's so many fantastic resources out there. And Facebook groups, like those that are committed to the FIRE movement, which is financial independent, retire early. There's like, investing clubs. I think you've just got to kind of find your community and then learn from that, as well as Google. As well as just reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can have a chat.
That's a good. Oh, sorry, Hema, you go first.
Definitely don't talk about failure or money enough, I think, as women.
Yeah.
And I think also the Refinery 29 Money Diaries is also a great, I guess, kind of read, just to kind of see how to manage your money and actually how much they make, because we don't talk about that either. So
yeah, so true.
That's so true. When, you know, Kiwis, we kind of used to putting all our money into a house investment if we're lucky enough to be able to afford to buy one. We kind of, as you say, brought up, you know, scared about investing. And yeah, and you know, I'm of the generation where women aren't as financially literate as we would like to be, and it's a bit of a scary thing. So and I guess too, when you're investing at different times of your life, you know, when you're young, some people might be of the view that you can afford to take risks, and when you're a little bit older, when do you start to, you know, maybe put things into more conservative funds rather than growth funds? Yeah, I don't know if you've got any comments on that.
Definitely I think later, because if you think about people retiring early, like 65, you're probably going to live for another 20 years. Think about where your money can be for another 20 years. So I think there's been a real change in people managing their risk as they move into retirement compared to the past, because retirement isn't kind of a thing. Like, you're still making money, Kiwis right through their 70s, and then you kind of have to live off that money. So yeah, it's a long time away, which is why you know, most KiwiSaver growth stuff is in stocks, in the share markets. Yeah, I was going to say also, actually, Sorted is like, if you don't, because businesses are naturally going to try and sell their products. I think sorted.org.nz is the government website where you can kind of learn about investing and budgeting and all that kind of thing as well. Yeah.
I think the other thing for women is negotiating, and I know Kristen is an expert in this. I've been to some of your negotiation masterclasses, and it's things like, you know, when we apply for a job, we might think, oh, I'm not qualified, or we are too scared for a pay rise. Do you have any comments on that, Kristen?
What was your question? What kind of comments?
I guess, can you just maybe give us a few tips on?
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Like, the women, again, back to that thing, if we're not 100% certain, you know, we check all the boxes. You know, the stats around that, and the studies show that, you know, when women apply for jobs, you know, if they don't meet all the criteria, they won't apply, whereas men will, you know, meet 3 of the criteria, and they're like, oh yeah, I got it. So I guess like tips, one of the things, and this is something that, I approach with those negotiation courses is, really leveraging what women are good at. Like, I don't think it's about being like men, and this, it goes for negotiating, but just life in general. Like, I think it's really important to leverage the things you're good at. And I think one of the most important things with any negotiation is understanding the other person, the other party, and, building trust. And so women, naturally, and again, broad generalizations, but it's easier for us to build trust and have empathy and, build relationships. It just is. And so, using those, in a negotiation where it's not, you can align more on values, and, you really understand, once you understand what's really important to the other person, the negotiation becomes really easy, because all you have to do is take, the outcome that you want and align it with what they want to achieve, and you're golden, right? Like, it's not not a conflicting situation. It's not a, if I give you this, then I lose it. You can actually create something, and there's opportunities within that to create something where maybe there's things that you can give that aren't really important to you, that are super important to the other person. Concessions that you can make around that. So I think, and this, just to circle it back to where business has been heading for the last few years, building relationships are, crucial and key to everything. And so you can get a lot further when you put that at the forefront. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I'd say around negotiating.
I made some pretty big mistakes all through my 20s. I felt like I always thought, oh, it's a learning experience. Like I would kind of go in and be like, oh my gosh, this company or this product or this whatever, I always wanted to do this. But then I was like willing to take less money, because I was like, oh, just chalking it up to a learning experience. And I think that was a really big mistake I made, undervaluing what I actually bring, and kind of defining my personal worth and brand. And like, if I'm spending 40 plus hours on building someone else's business, I think that was a real mistake of mine, to actually I care deeply about what I do. I work hard. I'm passionate. I dig in, and I think it's like really valuing yourself, and kind of, you're an exchange. Like, I'm not sure if loyalty is really a thing anymore. Like, you are an exchange for the services you bring for someone else. And so treat yourself like that, back yourself. I know that when I hire women, I bring them in and I say, well, what are your salary expectations? Which I actually don't even ask anymore. But I used to, and they would say, oh, well, this is what I'm making right now. So it wasn't like, this is what I'm worth, or this is what the market is this is what I'm making right now. And it's like, oh, don't do that. So there's a tip. Don't do that. Just totally back yourself and then go 10K higher. And then I'll be like, all right, that's cool.
Another thing I'd say, I think one exercise I really love around this is just making, and this is something I've been doing for a course that I'm in, is making bold requests. So, have a little bit of fun with it, instead of, instead of being afraid of being told no, making bold requests. So they define it as a bold request is any kind of request where you go beyond where you normally stop. And so, asking for a free coffee or a free drink, or, the other day I was making reservations, and the guy told me we don't make reservations past 5. And I was like, I totally understand that. Can you make an exception for me? And it was just like, I don't
That's awesome.
And the funny, he told me no in the end, but it doesn't matter.
He tried.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter to me. And so I think practicing those moments, building that muscle where you're comfortable being told no, and it doesn't mean anything about you. And if you ask, if you need to have a yes in order to ask the question, you're never going to get to where you want to be. So be comfortable, leaning into that edge. And then you'd be surprised where you end up. Like, I've legit just gone up to people and gone into cafes and asked for a free coffee, and they're like, okay. Like, and without explaining why I wanted that, I was just, can I have a free coffee? And it's, things like that it's, it feels weird. Like, it feels totally weird, but it's for the purpose of building that muscle, asking for what you want. I deserve everything I want in life, as does everyone inherently. And so I think, whether that's a salary, the worst they can say is no. An employer is not going to get to final stages of negotiating with you, almost hire you and tell you no because you asked for 10 grand more. If anything, they're going to be impressed. Like, from my perspective, when I'm hiring someone and people have confidence and they know their worth, that's more impressive to me as an employer than anything else.
We've got time for one more question before we have to wrap it up. I can't believe it's gone that quickly. From Joan, she's just asked, are there any easy tools to help with imposter syndrome?
Coaching. I don't know if you have that one figured out. I don't know. I genuinely think with anything, any kind of subconscious beliefs or unconscious beliefs, it's all about bringing awareness to it, so the more work you could do, the more whether it's courses or coaches or that kind of introspection, the more awareness you can bring to any of your unconscious beliefs, the easier it is to make decisions around them.
And Kristen, how do people, if they want some coaching, how do they get hold of you?
I have a website, kristinwonch.com, and you can just contact me there.
That's great. And that Wonch is spelled W-O-N-C-H, isn't it? So Kristen Wonch. And what's the Hatch website, Kristen?
It's Hatch. Oh my gosh, it's hatchinvest.nz. I had to think about that. But everyone check out just Google Hatch Getting Started course.
Fantastic. So it's been so great to be here sharing a glass of rosé with you today, O'Connor Wines. If you do want to be in to win one of $50 vouchers for a restaurant, go to good.net.nz competitions and you can enter there and also sign up to the Conno Wines EDM. Don't forget, if you're shopping with Conno Wines, you can use the code TOGETHER and that will give you a 5% off for your order. Plus it will also, Conno will donate 5% to cafes and restaurants at this really difficult time for businesses. So thanks guys for coming. I've learned so much today. I'm inspired now to learn more about this, and it's just been great. So cheers and
cheers. Thanks everyone.
Friday.
Thank you.